let's get it on with Michelle was first, so we can go with Michelle first if you like. But whatever you have loaded. Here's a bit of her speech.
Wonderfully magical is in the air, isn't it? Yeah. You know, we're feeling it here in this arena, but it's spreading all across this country we love. A familiar feeling that's been buried too deep for far too long. You know what I'm talking about. It's the contagious power of hope. The anticipation, the energy, the exhilaration of once again being on the cusp of a brighter day. The chance to vanquish the demons of fear, division, and hate that have consumed us and continue pursuing the unfinished promise of this great nation, the dream that our parents and grandparents fought and died and sacrificed for. America, hope is making a comeback.
That's a great chunk of. Sorry, then you can go back to it. I think there's another chunk. But that was a great little chunk. I'd say that was a brilliant paragraph, so well crafted. It was positive. It was deliberately calling out hope, but it also specifically spoke to the negativity and the doom machine that is the GOP. Everything's awful. It's never been worse. I mean, problem, sure, but you've never heard the darkness and negativity that you hear on the GOP side. So what I loved about that little chunk was that she both kept it hopeful. I mean, there's a feeling in the air, hope, possibility, potential, and she did it, I thought, with brilliant words, but also called out the negativity. So go ahead, Albert. Continue that if you would, please.
Harris is more than ready for this moment. She is one of the most qualified people ever to seek the office of the presidency. And she is one of the most dignified. A tribute to her mother, to my mother, and to your mother too. The embodiment of the stories we tell ourselves about this country. Her story is your story. It's my story. It's the story of the vast majority of Americans trying to build a better life.
Yeah, that's great, and I like that. Oh, maybe there's more too. Sorry about that. We can continue, but I like that, and this is a good thing to underscore at this moment. The women became key, and maybe this is the implied key that women have with Kamala Harris top of ticket. Women have issues that are so very contemporary and issues, honestly, that I think many women, and certainly those who care about women in this country, never thought we'd have to confront. I mean, I just never thought that Roe would actually be overturned, and neither did anybody else. I mean, the only people who did were Federalist Society and right-wing, alt-right Christian fascists and nationalists who made it part of their plan. And to their credit, to their evil credit, they sowed the seeds of that at high schools, at colleges, at institutions of greater learning, through money, through organizing, at legislatures across the country. And of course, ultimately, the prize is the Supreme Court, which they got. And Leonard Leo, who is truly the Death Star captain, Leonard Leo, who runs the Federalist Society, he's the Knights of Malta, true Christian theocrat. He has instituted so many of these plans. And of course, he was gifted $1.6 billion within the last couple of years. So they are soaking all of these institutions to which I've referred with a lot of money. And they've been able to change the course of this country as far as women are concerned in the short term. And maybe as far as all of us are concerned in the longer term. So anyway, I like the fact that she mentioned women in her speech more than once, but I think women deserve to be a centerpiece of a lot of speeches. You had something, Kim?
I liked it when she said hope is making a comeback. It just that I think I texted you that last night. That was the line that stood out. But she also said somebody told Donald Trump in reference to the presidency, this is one of those black jobs. I thought
Yeah,
that was pretty funny.
that of
Yeah.
course was the breakout line.
Yeah.
I see you, Paolo, and I will hit you with a response here in a moment. Does that continue, Albert, or not? I don't recall. I
It
sent it
dips
to
in
you.
and out of the speech. If you want to move on to the next one, feel free.
Give me a little bit more of Michelle Obama, and then we'll move on to Barack Obama and the rest of
That
it.
most of us will never be afforded the grace of failing forward. We will never benefit from the affirmative action of generational wealth.
Stop right there. That is a brilliant line. That
Yeah.
is an absolutely brilliant line. That is directed toward the billionaire class, of which Donald Trump is one. And it's a way of saying, the real affirmative action, it's the way that you've inherited generation to generation wealth that continues to build on itself. That is the true affirmative action, that you continue to hold onto your wealth generationally through the tax system that we have set up that will always protect you. It was a brilliant line, and it claps back essentially at the affirmative action slapdown that you hear on the GOP side. Continue, please, Albert, if it goes on.
If we bankrupt a business, or choke in a crisis, we don't get a second, third, or fourth chance. If things don't go our way, we don't have the luxury of whining or cheating others to get further ahead. No. We don't get to change the rules so we always win. If we see a mountain in front of us, we don't expect there to be an escalator waiting to take us to the top. Now,
Keep going, Albert. Sorry. Go ahead. I keep jumping
Well, it's
out
really
every
a
time.
theme of hard work, of people pulling themselves up by the bootstraps. This is what you used to think of as the Republican Party, right? Do it yourself. Be responsible for your own self. How did the message flip now that this is the Democratic Party?
Yeah, it was a great tip of the hat to the notion of trying to get away from the socialism, which is associated with big business. We've socialized their losses, right? We bail them out. That's what she's talking about. We have a business, we don't get bailed out. They have a business, they get bailed out. The American taxpayer bails out big business and industry. And she's saying small business people don't get that. I really liked the way she pointed to the schism between those who have the wealthy class and those who are trying to get a piece of the American dream. I really felt that was an important substantive thing. Obviously, she's a great orator. She has a great message, and she delivers it so well. But it's that having a great message part that I thought was so good. Continue, please, Albert.
we know what comes next. We know folks are going to do everything they can to distort her truth. My husband and I sadly know a little something about this. For years, Donald Trump did everything in his power to try to make people fear us. See, his limited, narrow view of the world made him feel threatened by the existence of two hardworking, highly educated, successful people who happen to be Black. I want to know, who's going to tell him that the job he's currently seeking might just be one of those Black jobs?
Yeah, that's just too good. That's just too good. I mean, that's just too good. So I thought she was great. She came with the goods, and she delivered the goods so effectively. Looking on, first of all, schism or chasm, says Craig. I think either would be acceptable. Schism is a division, I suppose, and chasm is a gap. So it's whatever you want it to be. I think I used the word schism appropriately, but the lady Beatrice with a $5 super chat. Send us a super chat, and we will respond to your chat. That's how it works. How much do you want to bet that Harrison Butler saw that wonderful pro-lady rhetoric and scoffed?
Big shout out.
Yeah, the lady Beatrice. That's right. Harrison Butler, again, is the place kicker for the Chiefs. Isn't that right, Albert? Isn't that Commish? I believe that's correct.
Yes, a very good football player. I don't know about his opinions.
Yeah, not a great political thinker. Yeah. And then I did get some static from a Republican who, we have nothing against Republicans on this show. I'm not a big fan of the MAGA heads, but even though MAGA heads are on here, I'm okay to talk substantively with you. But just if you're going to throw firebombs, I don't have any time for you. But here you go. Crazy for Cash for a $5 super chat.
Big shout out.
Says, I'm excited to move forward in America rather than backwards with the old guy. There you go. And then more to, I think I was referring to Republican here with Paulo. Big shout out, first of all, Paulo.
Big shout out.
It's amazing how Kamala's economic plan looks like those failed in Latin America in the 1980s and 1990s. It's a typical socialist vision. Well, first of all, Paulo, I would say there is no economic plan. She's made a very generic, broad stroke kind of promise to go after price gouging, and I don't see how you can take issue with that. I even think the term price gouging is well applied there because it's sort of a generic term. It means a different thing to all of us. Yes, there is a technical definition of price gouging, like if it's done in an emergency and, water, fuel, these sorts of things that are marked up. I've made this point before. There are laws against that in many states. But when you talk about her economic plan, there isn't an economic plan. And I think that's smart because if there were an economic plan, a specific economic plan, the specifics of it would be lost on most of us. 99% of the people wouldn't really get into the specifics of an economic plan. However, the broad strokes are appreciated, like the reference to price gouging, and the 1% who do actually parse that economic plan will be like yourself, perhaps, looking for a reflexive way to refer to socialism. It's communist. I really see a lot of what she's doing as speaking to the middle class and those who haven't had a bite at the apple. That's not a bad political strategy, particularly when you're running against a party that somehow has positioned itself as populist. I'm talking about the GOP, when it's really run by moneyed elites. Look at the people who are in the GOP, at the top of the GOP. It's Trump's party. He can play the populist card like he did in 2015. It doesn't play in this game anymore because he's sort of been exposed as someone who just handed out big tax cuts for the wealthiest Americans, and then you look at those that he surrounded himself with, and it's all the moneyed aristocracy of America. He's even made deals, at least potentially, right, in speeches, with big oil. You give me the money, I will give you the executive order. I will let you lease and drill wherever you want. He's made these promises openly. He applauded Elon Musk for dumping those that were beginning to talk union at the Tesla plant, 7,000 workers. So when we talk about messaging, you can see how perhaps on the GOP side, now obviously the MAGA devotees, the devoted people are out there with T-shirts and merch, etc. For them, I think there's almost a fun show part of this, and they're angry. And there may be, I think, an undercurrent of racism. Maybe it's an overcurrent of racism. But there's definitely a sense of being disenfranchised that somehow the MAGA world has locked into. But the reality is that disenfranchisement would continue under Donald Trump. And you would only find that gap between those that have and those that do not have. You just would have it, I think, accentuated by any kind of Trump administration. Anyway, to the point that you made, there just isn't an economic policy that you can suggest is socialist or whatever. If you're saying that people can apply for government assistance of one sort or another, that's not socialism, dude. There are a bunch of programs in this country that already quack like that. So if you really want to talk about socialism and communism, you have to talk about government takeover of major things. If the government was to take over the oil industry or take over certain oil industries or businesses like the banks, etc., that's socialism and communism. Otherwise, we've perverted what socialism. Every time there's a government program that helps somebody out, it's socialist. Come on, we can do better than that. So, I mean, the choice is pretty stark this political season. Now, what other clips do I have from last night, Albert? I have Barack Obama.
Yes, I have Barack Obama ready for the next one.
Good. Let's. I have Mo coming at bottom of the hour, but let's see. I was going to play him some of this, but let's see Barack Obama, and we can. There's plenty to share from last night.
It is good to be home, and I don't know about you, but I'm feeling fired up. I am feeling ready to go. Even if I am the only person stupid enough to speak after Michelle Obama.
That was a great line too, of course.
I am feeling hopeful because this convention has always been pretty good to kids with funny names who believe in a country where anything is possible. Now, the torch has been passed. Now it is up to all of us to fight for the America we believe in. And make no mistake, it will be a fight. For all the incredible energy we've been able to generate over the last few weeks, for all the rallies and the memes, this will still be a tight race in a closely divided country. And as we gather here tonight, the people who will decide this election are asking a very simple question. Who will fight for me? Who's thinking about my future, about my children's future, about our future together? One thing is for certain, Donald Trump is not losing sleep over that question. Here's a 78-year-old billionaire who has not stopped whining about his problems since he rode down his golden escalator 9 years ago. It has been a constant stream of gripes and grievances that's actually been getting worse now that he's afraid of losing to Kamala. There's the childish nicknames, the crazy conspiracy theories, this weird obsession with crowd sizes. The other day I heard someone compare Trump to the neighbor who keeps running his leaf blower outside your window every minute of every day. Now, from a neighbor, that's exhausting. From a president, it's just dangerous. The truth is, Donald Trump sees power as nothing more than it means to his ends. He wants the middle class to pay the price for another huge tax cut that would mostly help him and his rich friends. He doesn't seem to care if more women lose their reproductive freedom since...
Ready to upgrade your Windows?
Oh, Albert. Skip the ad and let's hear the rest of that.
It won't affect his life. And most of all, Donald Trump wants us to think that this country is hopelessly divided between us and them, between the real Americans, who of course support him, and the outsiders who don't. And he wants you to think that you'll be richer and safer if you will just give him the power to put those other people back in their place. It is one of the oldest tricks in politics. From a guy whose act has, let's face it, gotten pretty stale. We do not need 4 more years of bluster and bumbling and chaos. We have seen that movie before, and we all know that the sequel is usually worse. Kamala Harris
go ahead.
won't be focused
Stay with it. Stay with
on
it.
her problems. She'll be focused on yours. As president, she won't just cater to her own supporters and punish those who refuse to kiss the ring or bend the knee. She'll work on behalf of every American. That's who Kamala is.
So Mika,
Yeah, there you go. That's kind of a mashup. I really liked it of the Obama highlights. It was obviously an extremely strong speech from both of them, but he hit all the tones there, and he even threw some shade, as the kids say, at Trump in a big way that landed, I thought. I mean, really, he made points about Trump that were accurate and were also biting. Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.